Coming up this week on the Digital Lifestyle Show 802, we've got lots to talk about. Gary, Richard are here. We'll be talking about smart home cameras and AI that goes with that. We've got the latest Windows Insider news and news on the May 2021 update. We're talking get old game packaging. Do you remember that with big box stuff and like that? And lots more. So let's get straight to Richard and Gary. Richard, good evening.
Good evening, Ian. How are you?
Okay, good, thank you. Week off work, and it's raining all day today.
Obviously, it's the way it goes.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I did manage to go to. I was out and about and I found a record shop, but sadly came away with no records today, which is one of the first time for me because they're either super expensive but nothing that I wanted. So yeah, I browsed, but no collecting of records.
Well, I did a round trip to Crewe from Brighton to hand over my collection of TI-99 hardware to the owners' club. So in Crewe, yeah, I've now done that, which was a sad day, but also a very well. It's lucky Garry isn't here because I did it in my petrol-powered car, and I went there and back without stopping, apart from to empty the boot of my car once, and then come back, which was about 500 miles. So
yeah,
I did not stop for anything.
Not a million miles from me, about an hour from me, that Crewe. So
I didn't think of you actually in Manchester. Yeah.
Yeah, that was the home of Rolls-Royce and other. I think it's Rolls-Royce, isn't it, based in Crewe?
Yeah, they are, and also have to confess I did recognise it because I've been there many years ago when I used to do train spotting, and I thought,
yes,
Crewe,
course, yeah.
This is where the trains come through. I remember going here, but when I was a very excitable, crikey, it must be about 10, 11, so a good 40 years ago.
And so, did you keep any of your gear behind, or is it all gone?
Well, I thought it was pointed out to me a few times that I simply hadn't been using it. So I thought, okay, I'll give it to someone who can probably use it. But what I did do was I kept a completely non-functioning motherboard, and I'm going to frame that and put it on my wall.
Oh, very nice, yeah.
And I've got one, and it's great because it's got all the bodge wires on it still as it left the factory. Because of course, when they were made back in the late 70s, early 80s, shall we say, the boards didn't work quite right, and so you have all the patch wires on them still to deal with the issues with the board.
Oh right, fantastic. Well, it's worth keeping some. I think I've got a couple of broken bits in my loft that I need to get rid of. Some of them working, but so I wish I've kept them. But there's a couple of Spectrums that were broken. Although I'm still thinking of mounting a Raspberry Pi inside of one of those. I think that might be the. Well,
I was going to mount a Pi inside of one of the broken TIs, and I thought, no, I like my Pi 400 so much that it would almost seem to be a bit pointless because the keyboard on that is better in every way. So I think I'd rather leave the TIs as they were. So yes, hopefully that they will go to new homes where they will be enjoyed as much as I enjoyed them.
Oh, that's really good. I think I've got in the garage some boxed early PC games like the original Doom, Grand Prix Manager 2, and IndyCar, Papyrus IndyCar, and some of these. Yeah, all on floppies. I think I might even have a X-Wing and TIE Fighter, those kind of sort of 90s games. So I don't play them. And I've not got the same kind of affection for them as I would with my my Spectrum music stuff. So they're on the shelf there. So I was thinking what to do with those. But maybe a computer museum might like those, especially a box copy of Doom might be something.
Yeah, I would have thought so. I mean, well, obviously we're going somewhere in a few months, aren't we? So we can look into it then.
Stick them in the boot and
exactly
and drop them off. Because it feels wrong to take to some kind of charity shop, and it certainly feels wrong to throw them away as well. Because these are boxed copies.
I mean, I reckon somewhere like the Museum of Computing History in Cambridge, I'm pretty sure they'd go for that because they do have quite a vast eclectic collection.
Yeah, and even if they wanted, if there was some, they could sell them, then great, they're fine. I mean, it's funny when you look at the packaging for games. These are big. I'll bring one up for the next show next week. These are big boxes with like 2 floppies in them. And it's funny how they went through that stage.
Well, I had two things there. I've still got my 7 Max Hit the Road LucasArts box. I had the 3.5-inch disc and also the CD-ROM version of that, because the CD-ROM version had all the speech on it as well. But on my TI-99, I had some of the Infocom things, and they came in really strange boxes. I think I can't remember which one it was. It was one that was. Oh, I should have prepared my notes. But this was one. It was like an Egypt mystery type thing, and it came in like it wasn't a box. It was more like a vinyl sleeve, and it had all the various maps and things and whatever else inside it. And obviously, you had the 5.25-inch floppy disk as well. And you think, yeah, that was great. Whereas now, of course, we just download it and we don't think about it anymore.
Yeah. Good evening, Gary.
Good evening. Teams was doing its usual thing to me.
Well, we just started, but we were just talking about Richard's got rid of his TI collection and given that to a museum. I was just thinking whether to get rid of some of my boxed games, and I've got original Doom and stuff. And how game software, all PC software always seem to come in big boxes for tiny little discs.
Yeah,
I wonder why that was.
I remember when we talked about the Star Raiders packaging way back in the day on the Star Raider, there was the old Atari cartridges were sort of hand size, and then the box was about that way. But in the States, it was like that. It was a massive thing. It had star maps and all sorts inside it. It's sort of a full presentation case. But
exactly because the artwork on the box never ever matched what was inside.
Oh no.
Yeah, I think I've got the original Grand Prix Manager as well, and that again is in a big box and on 3 floppies or maybe 1 CD or something like that. But certainly Doom was 4 floppies in a big, it's almost A4 size box, and I guess that was a marketing thing, that they thought that the bigger the box and the more impressive the box was, the better the game would sell when they used to sell games in shops like that. So yeah, I'm gonna give those away anyway. So anyway, good evening, welcome to the show. We've got quite a few bits and pieces to talk about today, not just get rid of old equipment. I'm keeping some of my old, especially my old music equipment, which I'm continuing to do the restoration on. I've got the DX100 to do next, but that's coming along quite nicely. We have got some Windows 10 news to talk about as well. Oculus Airlink and some other news as well. So I don't know where we start with. We'll start with the Oculus Airlink. First of all, Richard, you seem very excited about Oculus Airlink, and I didn't know what it was.
Yeah, well, I was excited until about half an hour ago when I still couldn't make it work. So this is one of the experimental features. They actually announced it, I think, last week, maybe even the week before. And what it was, it kind of lets you hook up your Oculus Quest 2 to your PC without requiring a cable, because at the moment, if you want to play if you want to play your Rift games, for example, or your Rift software, you can plug your Quest 2 headset into your PC via a USB-C socket, and then it runs like a Rift headset, which is great, except for the fact, of course, you've got this awful great cable there. The purpose of the Airlink is you don't have the cable anymore, but obviously you do need a decent Wi-Fi connection. It's rolling out in kind of experimental form at the moment. I think it's part of version 28 of the software, which you can find out if you got that by going to the About settings on your headset. And I was very excited to see 28 appeared on my headset, because it's being rolled out in a staggered fashion, and you got to go in, enable experimental mode, yada yada, and then in theory you should be able to run your Oculus Quest 2 headset with your PC that's also VR capable without the cable, which makes so you basically get to enjoy the kind of the freedom of movement that you get with the Quest 2, but you get the more impressive software which the wired headsets have. So things like for me it'd be stuff like the Google Earth stuff, which still doesn't work on the Quest 2, although there are things like Wonder which do similar things, but other games as well. So I was very excited about that, and I can confirm I've yet to make it work. I was hoping that today I could say, it works great, but unfortunately, even though I'm running 28 on my PC and 28 on my Quest 2, it appears there's one step that I'm missing somewhere. So maybe by next week I can tell you what it's like. But right now I can tell you it's very frustrating, because this would make it almost a perfect device for me, because then I'd be able to do all my Quest stuff, my Rift stuff, which is things like Lone Echo, the racing game that we enjoy playing, would all then work on the Quest 2 without needing that awful cable.
But my son's got his Quest 2, so I'll ask him to check it.
Yeah, definitely.
By now.
Well, I think he needs the USB-C cable first. To actually add it in, and then once you've added it into your Oculus PC software, you can then remove the cable, and it should just work. I believe that's as long as you got it. I mean, obviously, it is an experimental feature, so it has to be enabled. And again, the usual health warning applies. It being an experimental feature, it may not work. It may go bang. Other things. Oh, and you've also got to have a decent Wi-Fi network as well. I think they're saying it needs to be an ACOX type router. So, yeah, a modern bit of kit.
Yeah, I'll get him to give it a try and see if he can get it working.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, as I say, I know a few people who are using it and say it's wonderful. So I'm very keen to give it a go.
Yeah, excellent. Yeah, that sounds a good idea.
Yeah, I think it's good, and also it's good to see these developments happening, because there is obviously the slight concern that the other thing that's going to roll out as well, I think is 120 hertz refresh rate as well. I think is coming too. So yeah, which should up things from the 90 it tends to run at the moment. So I think but I think that's a developer option to make their software do that. So, but again, all this stuff is coming soon.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, I'll get him to have a look at that. I know he does like it. I can hear him when he's playing, him moving his bedroom around to make sure he's got space to play it. He's still managed to put the boundary and still managed to punch the wall, which I think I've done a few times with mine as well. So yeah, you still, even though the boundaries are there, you still get lost in the VR.
I've got dents in my ceiling from playing Climb. I really have.
I haven't played my VR for some time, actually. It's kind of good. It's one of those things I go through phases. I'll play that for a bit, then I'll play like Project Cars for a bit, and then I'll play whatever, and then go around, and then I come back to it. So yeah, I haven't been on my VR for quite a while.
Yes, I mean VR's time should have come last year, and it didn't. So I think it's still going to be a bit of a niche. It's still a bit of a niche gaming thing at the moment, but who knows? Yeah,
and did you see that the Microsoft have actually cut the price, haven't they, of not the price, but the amount that they charge the game resellers in the Xbox store?
Yes, I saw. Yes, they've cut that back quite dramatically, haven't they?
I'm interested. I wonder whether that will happen. Is it just for gaming, or do you think will that happen through the general stores? For pricing, for normal apps in stores. Although I suppose Microsoft Store doesn't. Many people are buying services through that.
I guess at that point I'd defer to Garry, but it's a Microsoft Store, isn't it? So, but I think it's only for games at the moment.
Yeah,
so
I mean, there's a lot of people in the developer community who sort of think the current store is a bit ropey. It's maybe they need to do something about that anyway. But yeah, it is only for games at the moment.
Bless you for saying ropey. That's very, very kind, I think, for what it's like at the moment. Phrases I use are tumbleweed, moribund. I mean, this
ropey. It's a good catch-all.
There are rumours that there is a update to the store coming that's going to change policies and all sorts of things. Maybe that was something that will be shown off at Build later this month.
Yeah, I've heard those rumours as well. No inside information on that at all. I just think it's about time they did something about it.
Yeah. I mean, I think they've got to either fix it or abandon it, one of the two, because as it stands, it's kind of been languishing away. So obviously, the game side is great because it works really well with Game Pass, whatever else. It's just the actual application side does appear to have been kind of abandoned a bit, and it's still a bit confusing because, I mean, obviously many people still use Win32 style apps. You've got Reunion, which should bring things together, but how that's going to work with the store at the moment is, I think, it's a bit up in the air.
Yeah, And I think that's the rumours are that the store will be more open for developers to put their own things in there. Doesn't matter what installer you use, and even where the content necessarily comes from. So just to make things a lot more open, which perhaps is a good idea, would be a way to entice people in if rather than have it, because I packaged a few apps up for the store, and it is quite a convoluted process, from your finished application to then getting it submitted. I know for developers it's sort of their bread and butter, but I had found it was quite a convoluted process, and a lot of steps to go through and do this and do that, and maybe make it more open and make the content from different installers and different locations would be a way of getting a lot more content in the store.
Yeah.
And talking to stores as well, I just added this to our list because I just I forgot about this. But Apple's in a bit of trouble, aren't they, with their store in the EU?
Tell us more.
It's been a long time coming, hasn't it?
So is this, Garry? Is this the EU suing Apple for the antitrust?
Yeah, it's basically antitrust. I believe it all came from a complaint by Spotify.
Yeah, it was Spotify.
Which triggered it all, and yeah, I mean, they've always said that there's no antitrust here because there's competition. It's Android or Microsoft phones or whatever. Obviously not anymore, but Windows. There's no competition. No antitrust. We don't have an absolute override on people's ability to sell things. They can go and sell on Android if they want to, and the EU are now saying that's not totally true, and that you do kind of have a monopoly in your own little area. So they are pursuing them and saying they have committed an offence basically under EU law. So it'd be interesting to see how this one works out.
Yes, I mean it's kind of the in-app payments model has definitely caused some consternation with the the competition rules.
Yes, yeah. It's really interesting what they've actually gone after. They haven't gone after the fact that you can't sell anything through anything other than the App Store. It's the fact the way you take payment can only be done through the App Store, which is an interesting one. So they're basically saying you should be able to put a product into the App Store free and charge for it elsewhere.
Yeah.
So how does that work with, say, the Microsoft apps, which are subscription-based apps? Does Apple take a cut on every Office 365 thing that's in there? I mean, how does the Office 365 sub work, or is it just you can't subscribe to Office 365 through an App Store app?
You can't subscribe through an App Store app. Yeah. So
okay.
you go. So basically, you can't set anything up through. You can use. I mean, you've always been able to do this. You've always been able to use apps which talk to another account, which is then charged for as a separate as an account, for example. I'm trying to think of a good example of that. But there's always been ways of doing that where you could set something up. Kindle was a good example where you could set the Amazon Kindle app up on the iPhone, but you couldn't actually buy books on it initially. And then they did for a little while, and it got a bit complicated. But you've not been able to sell anything through the app, which actually takes payment elsewhere. So the app can't prompt you to pay for something if your payment's not going to be taken through the App Store. And that's basically where the EU are coming hard and fast on them. so that's not good enough. You've got to allow them to do that. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how this works out.
And I guess that'll be something that does go on for a long time. That one.
Well, it could be. I mean, the EU tends to move relatively quickly compared to, say, the US antitrust authority. So, I mean, we may get something in a few years. I mean, which I think it could make a big difference if somebody is able to make an example of this particular operation. So it's not fair. And Apple, is so locked down. It's there is no way of getting around this. But as you say, Garry, there are ways and means on the Google in the Google world, but in the Apple world, it's completely locked. So unless they're going to publish ways of jailbreaking phones, I think, which I'm sure Apple would not want to do, you have to go through their App Store.
Yeah, you do.
And then that brings on to a topic that I know you're interested in talking about, Richard, is the cost of digital subscriptions for all these services that we're paying for. You started to see a trend in the rise in these prices.
Well, exactly. I mean, this kind of made me think back to many years ago when we used to talk about whether do you want to have your collection of video files and music files and stuff. And I can remember somebody at the time said, well, there's no point because you'll obviously stream it all from wherever it's stored somewhere. It'll be, from a service, which I think was all well and good. But certainly in the last 12 months or so, there's been a definite trend of prices creeping upwards. I've seen Spotify go up to, is it another £2 a month? I think it's Disney have gone up. Netflix is going up, and suddenly it's starting to look well. One, it's obviously the value for money proposition is not quite what it was, but of course the other thing is, whereas before you may only have had one or two services, now you're having to have lots of different services. You're going to have Amazon Prime, you're going to have Netflix, you're going to have Disney Plus. You start paying quite a lot of money per month, and I'm wondering at what point we're going to get back to the point where you think, well, actually, maybe if I just bought a DVD a month or Blu-ray a month, that's not going to be much different in price.
Yeah.
Or is that me being paranoid and old-fashioned? I can remember my MP3 collection and my my flat collections.
I think if you look at the way that my sons consume content for music, it's all on Spotify. They don't have any of their own music apart from the vinyls that they've got, and their entertainment is Netflix, Amazon, and Disney, and YouTube, and Sky and BBC don't get a look in. The only shows they'll watch BBC shows if they're on Netflix or Amazon or Disney. It's amazing. They just don't even think of iPlayer, but it's kind of always on the other services. It's
not so much the services; it's kind of the costs of the subscriptions now. That's kind of where I'm getting to. I mean, I certainly accept that. I mean, many people now will go nowhere near static media. It's all streamed from services, and certainly, as you say, younger people are very happy to pull down stuff from, or rather, listen to stuff as well. It's just back when the transition began, it seemed to be just a much better way of doing it to stream it. And I guess I was looking at how much I'm spending per month on streaming services and thought, wow, that's getting quite a lot now. And it's suddenly looking back in my records, it looked as though it's kind of the last 12 months. It's just been going up and up and up. And the latest thing being Spotify. It may have been the the straw that broke the camel's back. I thought another price increase, another service is going up. Crikey.
Yeah, it's a lot. I mean, and if you look at as a household, I mean, I don't have all the subscriptions, but one of my sons has got Disney, the other one's got Amazon, we've got Netflix, and so we've all got it sort of pooled on our main living room Xbox, so we sort of flick between them. But that's 3, and then we've got Spotify Family as well, so that's like 4 streaming services plus Sky plus your BBC license. It's a lot of money when you add it all up.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I wonder how much value for money we're getting, and it's certainly not the original. Well, not sort of the vision that we thought of. You would maybe go to different streaming services and you'd have the same content, and you just choose which service offers you the best value. But they don't do that now, do they? Of course, they've all got their own content, so that you can never quite get everything you want on one of the streaming services. So you end up with multiple. Music, not so much, but certainly on video.
Oh, video, definitely, yeah.
We haven't seen that. I suppose it's one thing that I don't know whether it would happen with music services where there's exclusives on music services. So I don't know whether it happens maybe with new music. Maybe it's not going to happen with the Beatles that was sort of Apple exclusive for a while. But whether there are certain groups that only release theirs on Spotify or only release it on Apple Music, like there is with TV service, shows that get commissioned by the streaming providers.
Yeah.
Music seems to be a little bit more open.
Yeah, although it didn't for a while. It wasn't. I mean, there was a big thing about certain things being exclusive on Apple Music or being exclusive on Spotify, and I think there was just consumer demand that everything got spread out and about, and people, if you didn't have it spread out, you weren't going to make the charts basically, because you're going to spin that one niche, and only those people who got it. So I think there's a bit of I don't know how that could work in the video market. It doesn't really work at the moment. I think people will just subscribe to everything. So, but there's a lot of crossover now. I mean, there's a lot of stuff on the Apple service which is on Netflix and vice versa. Particularly in the UK, where we have seen people seem to be able to get sort of deals with American suppliers for video, which are non-exclusive. Less so in the States, where everything seems to be in its own little walled garden, which is, and I know people, I've got friends out in the States now saying that they wish they'd stuck with cable because it was cheaper.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I forgot about Apple. That's one service we don't have in Apple TV. Yeah, it is becoming expensive. We hark back to the days where Apple could put the latest U2 album on your iPhone for you.
Crikey.
I do remember that.
I can remember the sheer horror of that turning up. Yeah.
Oh God, how we miss those days.
I think it was more how hurt they were when people were not happy about U2 turning up on their iDevices.
Yeah. I think that's the last thing anybody wants is a lot of Bono stuff turning up on your phone unannounced. Oh, poor Bono. Yeah, I think you're right. These rising costs are interesting to see whether there's a breaking point. When you get to the point where you think, right, enough is enough now. The quality of content isn't that good. I mean, I certainly, if I was paying for it all, if I had to choose one service, I think I'd probably only pick one. I wouldn't have all three. It's just the way it's worked out between us. But I think it is getting ever more expensive. And then, of course, your broadband charges forever seem to be going up as well. And I think, I'm saving money because I'm in lockdown, not going out, but it's all going digitally instead. Yeah, so it's just going to be interesting to see whether that sort of as a breaking point at some point, and people sort of want to roll back from that, and whether some other service comes along, maybe charges on per view models or something like that, and see whether that becomes a different way of working. Right, what else do we want to talk about? Oh, yes. So over onto Windows Insiders news. We now know what the 21H1 update is going to be called.
What the May 2021 update?
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
And build 19043.928, I think, is the final build. Although hasten to add, there's been at least 2 patches since then. But that's as per normal with Windows because you just keep patching it.
Yeah. So this is the 21H1 update is officially called the May 2021 update. Not really much surprise, but last year it was April when the 20H1 came out, so a month later. But I said this is probably the most exciting update to come to Windows for some time.
Yeah, I mean it's just it's very similar to the 20H2 update last year. It's just going to be a feature enablement. So the bits and pieces that are in 21H1 are probably already on your PC. So all this will do is simply, I believe, enable them. So it'll be a very, very quick update. It's little more than a jumped up update, really, I think. So I'm trying to think what's in it actually off the top of my head.
I've got the excited list here if you want to.
I'm just thinking, okay, I'm going to try and guess. Here we go.
Go on.
Okay. Something to do with Windows Hello camera can use 2 cameras or something. Yep, good.
Yes.
Something to do with Windows Defender Application Guard now runs better.
Yeah.
That's one. There was the third one. It's so boring, I can't remember what it is. Go on, tell me.
Windows Management Instrumentation Group Policy Service updated performance improvements to support remote work scenarios.
Well, there we go. That's good because let's face it, a lot of people are doing remote work at the moment. So yeah, there we go. So I mean, it's not going to be earth shattering or groundbreaking. It's going to be a very minor update, which is, I guess, good because we like stability. And although we are expecting, or the rumours say that they'll be saying much more major coming on later this year. But yeah, so it's going to roll out. I think likely. I mean, they've not confirmed the when. They've just said it's going to happen at some point in May. I think we talked about news and interest, didn't we, last week?
Yes.
So yeah, so that's coming. I don't know about you, but it suddenly turned up on my production machine this week, which surprised me a bit. But of course, it had the update. When it had the update, it didn't turn itself on immediately. It took a few days for it to turn on.
Yeah.
And then suddenly, unbidden and unwanted, it was there in my taskbar, which I think is a little bit naughty. I'd rather it asked me permission before it turned itself on. I mean, obviously, right-click, turn it off, that was fine, but I was a bit annoyed to see it just turn up there already activated. And you think, well, I'm not sure I really need to know the weather in my taskbar because I've got a window here and I can see what the weather's like. So I don't really want to see that. I mean, I know obviously some people like it, but I think, Gary, as you said, Microsoft do seem to be obsessed with it at the moment. Absolutely obsessed.
Yeah, they love it.
Yeah, they do. And as I think, as I said before, the main reason for that is it's a way of making money, advertising revenue potentially. So yeah, and controlling the news as well, as someone said. I'm not sure that.
To be quite frank, if you used a Windows 10 news and interests widget for all your news consumption, you deserve all you get.
Yeah, I noticed it's in the Windows taskbar spot of doom as well, isn't it? Really, where the my people icon was for a while.
Oh yes, exactly. Where Microsoft's ideas go to die.
Yeah, so I don't know whether that is a foreshadowing, but yeah, it's definitely in the spot where my people used to be, which I'd say on paper seemed like a much more useful feature, and yeah, turned out just to go nowhere. I don't know quite what happened with that. Maybe they just couldn't get the integration working, or maybe it just people didn't want to operate that way. It's funny that because on paper it should be a great idea.
It could be. I mean, it reminds me a bit of that wonderful feature on Windows Phone, the original version of Windows Phone, where it had things like your social media feeds and things would be collated in one place, which I thought worked really well. But I guess either they couldn't make it work properly all the time, or nobody really used it. I don't, But yeah, you're right. I was sad to see the my people start to disappear.
Yeah, and yeah, so we've got something else in its place now, anyway.
Exactly, and also down there is the Skype call camera as well. So the quick call things down as well. So all in that, Meet Now, all in the
That's gone on my. I'm just looking here on my Surface laptop, which is on release preview, and the Meet Now button's gone.
Oh, it's here on mine.
Turn it off. For more foreshadowing. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
Yet again, it is the, as you say, the taskbar area of doom.
Go to die. Yeah, once something gets shoved there, we know it's on its way out.
Well, it can't be because the Cortana button is on the left-hand side, and that's definitely on its way out. So.
Oh yeah, wait for that to be shifted across to the right-hand side. Then.
Exactly. Once Cortana moves to the right, that's it. She's doomed.
Yeah,
I tell you.
Yeah, we'll see. So so very exciting this update, but we knew this all along. They've made no bones about it. It was just a small update, and there's a bigger update coming later this year.
Yeah, exactly. We
don't see any details of.
Although they've not confirmed that there is definitely going to be a bigger update this year. Just to emphasise that it may not happen. It's just there's lots of rumours.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, we have got build. It's only in a couple of weeks now, isn't it? I think I did register for that, so that should be interesting. We might see some announcements of that. I've seen various, rumors flying around. So hopefully, nice to get to see some proper information on what's coming next for Windows and for the next year, and maybe even some Windows 10X news. You never know.
Yes, I mean 10X. I'm very worried about that now. That's feeling more and more like it's just going to be a Chromebook competitor as opposed to the grand ideas which we saw on stage when Panos Panay shared off the Neo. It does seem to be being just cut back to okay, we could make that work. We're going to focus on doing a Chrome OS, a competing version of Chrome OS, which is I think a shame because some of the architectural concepts behind 10X I thought were really exciting, but I'm getting worried about it now.
Yeah, it hasn't been moved to that bottom right corner yet, though.
Exactly. Yes, it's when you see the 10X mode in that bottom right-hand corner, then you know.
Yeah.
We're all doomed.
Yeah. there we go. We've got a show title. Although I've got a feeling we might have used that before, but anyway, we are certainly.
Well, since we talk about Microsoft consumer stuff a lot, I think saying we're doomed is going to be the theme of every show, really. Because Microsoft consumers not so good, unless it's an Xbox.
Yes, certainly Xbox gets lots of consumer love. Where else did we have?
Well, we did have a new build this last week. The dev channel got a new build,
yes, we did.
Which actually I thought had some useful stuff in it. I was quite pleased with it this time around because it had the Bluetooth fix. Which basically it means you haven't got to click through endless dialogues to make Bluetooth microphone and speakers work correctly, which I thought was great. It's just
it's a lot easier to understand as well.
It really is. So that I mean, in Microsoft languages, they only expose one audio endpoint in the UI, and we'll switch to the correct one automatically for a seamless experience. And what that means in practice is it works properly now. Because right now, it can be a real pain, can't it? I mean, even on these calls, you can have different audio sources, and you want to hop from, say, watching a video or maybe listening to some music or a podcast, and you'll switch to a Teams call or a Google Meet call, and the devices are mixed up, and you've got to click things around to make things happen. So I've been using this, and I think it works extremely well, and I kind of hope they're going to find, because I know they play around with things in this build that may find their way into other builds. And I'd say, forget news and interests, boring. This should be in the next build. This is really useful. This actually is a life-changing. It's a real quality of life improvement. It deserves to be highlighted more, I think.
Yeah, so if you've got like the Surface earbuds I've got in now, if in the current version of Windows, if you go into the sounds control panel, you'll see you've got headphones and you've got a headset.
Yep.
Which with the same device, which is very confusing. And in the new version, you just have headphones. I've never quite understood what the reason was. I guess one is the device, if it was working just as headphones, and one is in combination with the microphone as well. But it always seemed to be a bit of a strange way of working. But anyway, they've got rid of that dual sort of method, and now you've just got one device listed in there, which is good. It makes it easier to understand.
It makes it much easier. Really, really. So yeah. Anyway, as I said, it's improved my quality of life from no end, and I know that sounds ridiculous, but it really has.
And the other change in it was the support for AAC codec wirelessly through Bluetooth. Yes.
Yeah, that's really only good. I think if you're streaming or audio and things, it's kind of I think AAC is one of those more lossy codecs, so which means you can obviously store more, but there's obviously compression artifacts, but it's of a high quality, so you get better quality, smaller files. I must admit, I thought Windows supported this already, but maybe I've installed some third-party things I hadn't realised.
You probably have, yeah. There were codecs all over the place for AAC.
Exactly, yeah.
Back in the day for media center.
Codec packs.
You see, yeah. Back in the day, there was no streaming. No, we just it's all a codec pack when we were happy.
Yeah.
On digital TV.
and you had to run my utility to set the right one.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And then you need to back up your settings with Ian's Ian's code. It was they were simpler days, weren't they? Simpler days.
Yeah. But I mean, AAC was obviously the Apple driven the codec, and I think that's partly why Windows never supported it. but now it's in there. It's really good. Yeah, it's really good, and a lot of streaming stuff uses AAC now anyway, so it's not surprising it's there. Even my sort of local security cameras use AAC for streaming. So because as you say, Richard, it's a very lean codec.
Yeah. Oh, speaking of cameras, actually, I bought myself a new camera for home. I bought myself a plug-in Blink camera. Do you remember I installed the Blink software a long time ago?
Yeah. And
I had some Blink cameras many years ago that are still working. I mean, I think they've got like immortal batteries inside them. I don't know how they're still working.
They're amazing, yeah. They're almost as good as the SwitchBot ones I've got.
Yeah. But the whole thing with Blink was the people who made that where they came from. They weren't camera people; they were battery people.
Yeah, so it's just astonishing actually. It's the same double inch camera. We've been in them for years and years. But I bought a one that plugs into a power source, and I have to say I plugged it in. And it's actually on a different Wi-Fi access point to the main hub, but somehow it found itself, and took me about 10 seconds to make it work. Yeah, very impressed. Very impressed again.
Blink stuff is good. Blink stuff is good. I think it lost its way a little bit with the Amazon takeover because it was driving on some really clever ideas which never sort of came to fruition. But no, the stuff they've got out there is really good.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I own a second set of batteries in mine. I think, and I've had it for 3 years, something like that. And that's why I always mention the SwitchBot temperature sensor at my greenhouse is still on the same set of batteries. So in a year now, and it's still on full. It's incredible. And then I've got that other Wi-Fi one which I talked about on the show, and it wasn't in use, so I put it in the conservatory, put some new batteries in it, and it lasted about 2 weeks. It's just it's just a total waste of time like that, because you just don't want to be feeding batteries. So it's a underrated part of it when you do the original review and unboxing of it. You don't really take that into consideration too much because you've got a brand new thing, you just put the batteries in. But in practical use, it makes a massive difference.
That's why Fascinating Tech is quarterly, and we don't review anything under 3 months. you just don't know when you first review something. It's not, you can't, straight out of the box, it's an unboxing, it's not a review.
So that's why I recommend those SwitchBots so much, because it's just fantastic.
I mean, they're brilliant, aren't they? I mean, I'm running SwitchBots for their curtain things and everything, and integrating it. The only thing I've got against SwitchBot, and this is actually going to come up in our review, is the integration into smart things, because I've been playing a lot about smart things, and the SwitchBot curtain in smart things is just a nightmare because it's the wrong way round. It's closed when it's open, and it's open when it's closed. And if you try to tell it to open the curtains, it starts to open them and then closes them again. If you try to close the curtain, it opens them all the way open and then closes them again. It's really confusing. But yeah, so that's it. But other than that, they're really good. And it's those temperature sensors are just amazing. They just last forever. But talking about if you want to go Wi-Fi for these sensors, I have to say I'm really impressed with the Shelly sensors. I've got a Shelly water sensor. And I thought by now, we've been running that for 6 months now, and I thought by now the battery would have been getting low. And I checked it the other day, and it's still 80%, which is really impressive for a Wi-Fi kit. They must only peak occasionally the Wi-Fi to actually tell what's going on. So yeah, that was really good. And they have got a reputation for being quite mean on their battery usage, so that's good stuff.
Yeah, it's an important feature. Got a little thing I'm playing with here that's battery powered. It's a gimbal.
Oh yes,
a self-auto leveling one.
Yeah.
You can change between portrait and landscape mode. Very good, actually.
They are good, cool. I use them quite a lot when I'm out and about filming for the YouTube channel. Sort of little handheld gimbals.
Actually, I've got a few.
Your own personal Steadicam.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so when I always test it, my son looked at it and go, "No, it's not a selfie stick." I said, "No, it's not a selfie stick. It's a gimbal."
Yeah,
the big difference.
It is kind of a selfie stick.
It is exactly that. Yeah, but this is quite stable. Yeah, very stable, and it's even got a little dial to do the pan and tilt with it as well. So I've got a video of that. I think that's live now. So I've got a video of that.
So, what talking about cameras? There's something I actually meant to mention a couple of weeks ago. I've mentioned before Blue Iris, which is the sort of camera management system I use for all our odd IP cameras we've got around, the Omviv cameras and things, which has been around a very long time. I hadn't noticed recently they've added DeepStack integration. If you don't know what DeepStack is, it's an artificial intelligence engine which you can run locally. You can actually run it on a Pi if you want to, but you can run it on anything. I'm running it in WSL2, which I meant to mention it in those weeks. And it's just brilliant. It basically does a full AI analysis of the streams coming from the camera. So instead of getting alerted whenever a spider runs across the screen or
cat,
lighting game, I can tell it to only alert me if it sees people. I can tell it to only alert me if it sees cars. I can then tell it if it's seen a car to shove that off to an outside source which does number plate recognition and push button the number plate, and it's really effective. It does use a bit more CPU. There is a GPU version, but I haven't got that on the server I run iOS on. Hasn't got a really decent GPU anyway, so it's for CPU bound. But I mean, at the moment it's using about 70% CPU when it actually does the analysis. But it's really good. I'm getting so few false positives now compared to what I used to get. I mean, I used to get, particularly on the gate camera here, the spiders used to love that because it's infrared, and the spiders just love infrared stuff. And you used to get at night time, you get thousands of things. I almost got banned by my service provider once because we were sending too many emails out because of alerting because of spiders. So and there are other ways around that. There's Spidex and things which are good at repelling spiders. But the main problem is the infrared lights. They love them. So if the real trick is to separate your infrared lights. So turn off your infrared lights on your camera and actually have a separate infrared light source. Then the spiders go to the separate infrared light source, and not the camera. So that is a top tip. That really is a top tip if you can do it. If you can turn the lights off. But having said that, this deep stack stuff is really good for that, and it has been extremely accurate in terms of. So I've now integrated that into my doorbell system. I mentioned using that lovely doorbell button we had on the show a few months back. And that now works so that if someone's walking up the path, it recognises it's a person. It can even go further than that because it has facial recognition as well. So if it recognises it's not one of us in the house, it will ring the doorbell automatically before they even reach the door.
No, that's good.
So
because I think on the Arlo cameras, I get the local cat walks past, it sets it off, and you can pay, but it's like I think it's something like £9 a month, and you have the AI back end switched on. But yeah, I don't want to pay £9 a month for that. I
mean, Blue iOS has a subscription for support for the year and keeping up to the latest version, which is I think something. It works out about I think it's about 50 pence a month or something like ridiculous. But it may be slightly more than that. But it's not a bad value for money. You can go for premium support, which ends up about I think £60 a year, something like that. I'll check those figures out for next show. So I've got them. But the deep stack stuff is free. It just runs. You test download it, run it on your local PC. And the really good thing is Blue iOS sets it all up for you. It's quite a complex setup. So you just have to do an install for it, and it'll run. I'm not using that version of it. I'm actually running it on a separate server, but it works really well. So yeah, I think it's a very clever addition to any form of security system because you just don't want those false positives, and it allows you to do some really clever automations as well. So for example, as I said, it can recognise faces. So if it recognises one of us walking up the path and there's nobody else in the house, it might turn the lights on, for example. So you can do that present stuff without having to have tags or anything else. It's very clever. It even works with masks on as well, which I thought was quite impressive.
Yeah, well, that's good. That's good. Yeah. So that means that that restraining order you've got on me, I can't come near your house again.
That's it.
It stops me. Yeah, it's good. It's good to have a bit of intelligence with it. Is what you need really. I think I don't get a lot of false positives, but the cat is a bit of a culprit.
Yeah. And you can even set it up so it will flag, still record the cat, so you can have nice videos of the cat, but not actually alert you.
Yeah. I think. Yeah, these things now though are so like with the blink cameras, they're so easy and quick to set up now. There's some of the things have really improved on those over the last few years. So, from when having wired cameras, putting cables everywhere, there's a blink, you just stick them up and you're done.
I must admit that even the OnViv type characters, the IP based cameras, which are not the sort of the cheap Chinese cameras basically, they've got a lot more sophisticated over the last few years. Ones which do connect to on your local network. And it used to be a right pain to set up, but I got one through the other day, which is for testing, and I had it set up in about 2 minutes. It was incredibly quick to get on the network using their app. And it was basically just to run the app up, put your network credentials in it. It created a QR code, showed the QR code to the camera, and it's connected. And it was as quick as that. I mean, it really was as quick as that, and it did the Wi-Fi connection. And a pretty cool camera actually. So it's I always think the name of this company they ought to perhaps change for the UK for market because it's called eScam which always sounds a bit dodgy to me. You could say it was S-Cam, but actually apparently that's not. It is actually E-Scam. But they do really cheap cameras. They're Chinese maker. It stands for something in Shanghai and something other company. But it's their stuff is really good for the money. I mean, this is a full-blown PTZ pan tilt and zoom camera with they say 8 times zoom. It's actually, I think I've worked out, it's actually only 4 times optical, but it's still 4 times optical in a camera. Used to be the sort of the price range for that used to be a couple of £100, £300, £400 to get that sort of thing. This is 25 quid. If you know the right place to go to get it. So yeah, incredible what you can get nowadays in the cameras.
Yeah, that's good. So, yeah, some of this stuff is great for that. So so Richie, you find that Blink's working out well for you then?
Yeah, I was just very impressed how easy it was to connect and set up and get running. Really, just was no effort required at all. Just very impressive. Yeah.
Talk about no effort. I did mention something last week about the rugby services with the new chargers there, and I had to go to Coventry this week. I got sent to Coventry. Some people may want to do that to me every week, but we obviously went past Junction 1 on the M6 to do that, which is where these new Moto services have just opened with lines and lines and lines of chargers. As far as I can see.
Well, true. Although I did get a Crew and I did go past the M6. I went to Crew and back on one tank. Didn't have to stop at all.
Well, I didn't actually have to stop. To be honest, I didn't have to stop. I could have done the journey in one loop without stopping. But I did stop because it was on free vent. So I managed to do my whole trip to Coventry and back without spending a penny on my charging, because I ended up with more charge when I got back than I started. But yeah, chargers everywhere, which was really good. And what was really impressive was how easy they were to use, because up until now, to use the chargers on the motorways, you've had to have their app, log on, sort out, try and get the scanning to work, which never worked because their QR codes were so badly printed. They should have asked me about that. I could have sorted it out for them. But now it's literally tap and go. They've partnered with a company called GridServe, which I mentioned last week, and it's all running on GridServe's back end, and they know they are EV drivers, so they know how to make it simple for you. So literally, it is turn up the pump. That's what the electricity call them, pumps. So they don't pump anything other than electricity. Turn up the pump, plug it in, tap your card, and it starts charging. And it's 30p per kilowatt, which is a lot cheaper than a lot of other chargers that are at the moment around. So yeah, I was impressed by that. It was a really good experience in that respect. The one thing I would say against it, and this is something I've mentioned a lot on my channel, my YouTube channel, is the lack of cover for people charging. They're exposed at the far end of the car park. It was chucking it down with rain and hail when I was there, and it's a good 3-4 minute walk to the services from there in the rain. So it's not a pleasant place to have to walk from. So you wouldn't choose to park there in that weather normally. So the fact there's no cover, they really need to think about that. That's something I think we should. And over time that'll happen, because over time what will happen is the car park will gradually fill in with charges, because as more and more people use it, they'll fill in with charges. That's it. So yeah, I mean, and it worked, and it's been a great place for. It's been, as I said on Twitter the other day, it's the pilgrimage that every EV driver has to do at the moment to go to every services.
Excellent. While you were doing that, I'd managed to play around with the gimbal and some video stuff, and I actually made a music video.
You did? I saw this. It's rather good.
So I was. Because I've got some new tracks that I've written, and you need a bit of an outlook for them. So I thought, I'll try. I've seen people done this in the past. So yeah, I did. I used Camtasia Studio, and basically all I did was record myself playing along with each part of it, and just kept moving the camera around. So I had sort of 7 takes of this. And then I still had to do a few bits of reshoots on it. But then, so I had 8 or 9 video files, and then just tried to sync it all up, which is the hardest part, and then edit it together and made a little video. So quite fun doing that. It took a lot longer to edit than it did to film it, and certainly I envy these, or I admire these people who do music video editing. I mean, I know they've probably got sophisticated music editing software, but the audio editing is a lot easier than video editing. But yeah, it was good fun actually. So I did that. So that's had. So it's on our YouTube channel, so I'll put it on there. But it's quite good fun doing that kind of thing. I don't think I'll ever be a music video star. That's definitely not my thing. But yeah, it was quite fun to just do my own music on there.
It's good though. I love the music as well. Very Tubbs and.
So yeah, I've got a lot of 80s tracks at the moment in the pipeline. So yeah, I'm definitely going through. I've been listening to a lot of mid 80s, early 80s Tangerine Dream as well. So it's some good ideas. That's because I've cleaned everything up now. Everything's to hand, and I've managed to wire everything up now, so everything can be switched on at once now.
So it's not Miami Vice, it's Manchester Vice.
yeah, that's it. Yeah. So I keep going and looking on eBay at old vintage synthesizers. I thought I can't buy any more. There's physically nowhere to put them, so I can't. No more. Right. Well, that's just about all we've got time for this week. So Garry, where can we find you and your EV trips?
You can find me on Twitter at Garry with 2 R's WMA, and there's links to most of the stuff I'm doing on YouTube in there.
And Richard, where can we find you?
You can find me mostly on Twitter at Richard_Speed.
And I'm at Iris Dixon on Twitter. So we'll be back same time, same place next week. We'll have lots more to talk about by then, and so we'll see you then.
Take care.
Cheerio.